Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning into the I Expect You to Die 3 Dinner with the Devs. We have an awesome episode lined up for you. So, if you've been to one of these before, then you already know the drill. Drop your questions in chat. We will answer them along the way. If you're new here, welcome. Super excited to have you with us. So, just some housekeeping. We'll be answering guest questions, chat questions throughout the whole thing. So whether you're in YouTube or Discord, we'll be answering some stuff there. So please drop your questions. We're super excited to be talking about this game now that it's out in the wild. And yeah, we're in for a rock star episode. So I'm not going to take up too much time talking about other things. Let's dive right into the content that we have. So I'm Kat. I'm standing in for your host today. I'm the PR manager for Schell Games. I'm super excited to introduce some members of the team behind the scenes. We have, let's see, behind the scenes, we have Kukuma Adam in chat, as usual, holding it down. We also are very fortunate to have Chelsea and Beth also on the community team with us, helping along the way. Um, we have Jill as well. She is our fearless leader, senior director of marketing. And we have Mac, our web guru. But that is the Schell Games marketing team that brings you these events. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our stars of the hour. Some members of the I Expect You to Die 3 dev team. So, Jared, would you mind kicking us off?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. I am Jared Mason. I am the narrative director on I Expect You to Die 3. I am also the voice of the handler. And I also wrote the intro songs for I Expect You to Die 2 and 3.
Super excited to get into some of that later. Awesome. Glad to have you with us. Joey, would you go next?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Joey Zolkowski. I'm a level lead for I Expect You to Die 3, so I worked on about half of the levels in the game, and I'm a designer at Schell Games.
Awesome. Glad to have you with us. So great. Dmitri, how about you? Can you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Dmitri Shan, and I am the lead producer on the I Expect You to Die 3 game. Yeah, that's me.
And rounding us out, Matt, last but not least.
Thank you. Hi there. I'm Matthew Mahan, VP of Engineering here at Schell, and I'm also the project director on I Expect You to Die 3. Exciting.
Woohoo. Love it, love it. So, in case you missed it, and if you're here, I don't think you did, we announced I Expect You to Die 3 coming in 2023 yesterday with this super cool trailer. So I'm going to go ahead and roll that right now for those that haven't seen it. And if you've already seen it, I hope you enjoy it again. Here we go.
Agent Phoenix, I dare say you and I are back on the job. We'll start you off with something simple.
Hey, you must be from the agency. Just shout if you need anything. Actually, don't shout. I'll be right here.
Warning! Structural integrity failing. If this is an emergency, please stay calm.
You're running out of time, Agent. Evacuation protocols for our agents are happening around the world. Nothing can ever just be easy, can it? That's the Agent Phoenix I know and work with.
Yes. I know I've seen it a million times. I still get chills when I see it, though. I'm just nerding out over here. No, thank you for everybody that put together that awesome trailer. Hope you enjoyed it. And we're going to dive right into questions. Like, y'all are already so enthusiastic in chat with all of these questions. So I want to take as many as we possibly can. Apologies in advance if we can't get to them all, but please follow us on Twitter, join our Discord. The conversation is always going in those locations. So without further ado, I'm going to direct some questions to the team to get us started. This is one of my favorite questions. A lot of you have been involved with I Expect You to Die over not just one, but a couple of the games. So I would love to know, what is your favorite part that you've played in contributing to the I Expect You to Die franchise? And I'm going to popcorn up. Jared, you moved your head first. I'm going to start with you.
I'll never move my head again. No, I mean, very
Stay perfectly still.
For me, it has to be voicing the handler. I absolutely love that character. I am in just the most fortunate position that I also get to write that character, and so that's kind of a dream come true. I'm able to really, when I'm doing the voice for the handler, I know that character intimately because of all of the work that we do. So that's it for me is being able to bring that character to life for everybody and seeing everybody's reaction to him and all of the fan theories and speculation about him and just how people have really grown to be attached to that character. I'm right there with you. I'm very attached as well. I love that character with all my heart. So I'm glad that a lot of people do as well.
You should do a voice, Jared. Do a little snippet.
Oh,
Why
yes.
in the world would I do a voice for you, Matthew? It's an inappropriate time and place, honestly.
Nailed it.
I love it.
On call whenever you need it.
Amazing. I love awesome. All right. Thank you, Jared, for kicking us off. And this opening up the floor to everybody. What's your favorite part about the I Expect You to Die franchise and the part you played?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the first I Expect You to Die game that I've been a part of, and I think that's honestly one of my favorite things about it is our team has such a great mix of veterans like Jared and Matt, who have been a part of the earlier games, along with new folks like myself and Dmitri, who are coming into this with fresh eyes. So, I started out as an I Expect You to Die fan for the first one, so I still nerd out a little bit whenever Jared does his handler voice. But it's a really fun team, and it's a blast to work on I Expect You to Die puzzles, very literally sometimes. For this particular level behind me, we got to do like an underwater research trip where we went to a submarine. We got to do some like real world investigation to how we wanted this level to come to be. So there's just lots of fun things like that we get to do.
That's awesome. I definitely want to learn more about what research went into that. So we're going to save that question for later. Dmitri, why don't you go next?
Yeah, like Joey said, I am very new. One to Schell and then the franchise in general. So I don't have too much to compare it to, but early on when we were doing research into what we wanted this game to be, I think the best part for me was being able to see the bits and pieces that people had pulled from their favorite parts of I Expect You to Die 1 and 2, and just being super creative about how we wanted to make this game. So I think that's probably my favorite part about how they might be different.
Yeah, and for me, like, this is the first time I've been directly involved in the project. So prior, my involvement was more of a busybody. I'd come, I'd poke. The first game, I wrote some of the lore on the books. If you triggered the books, just little snippets. So I tried to wedge in where I could. But I love the lore. I love the work Jared and the team's done with those little breadcrumbs throughout the story. That's my favorite part.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. And oh, these questions from chat just keep on coming. So I'm going to drop just a couple in there to get us started. So Fear XOXOX, thank you for tuning in. They ask, what is your favorite level? So we're not going to talk about I Expect You to Die 3, but in the first two, what would your favorite level be? I know, hard choice, right?
I'll say that I really love levels that take a turn, right? So they start off one way, you're expecting the level to go a certain way, and then boom, something happens and it is completely unexpected. So to that end, my personal favorite level is Zora's Cabin up in the mountains, right? Because you go in there thinking, oh, I'm going to do a little investigating. I'm going to, find some secrets and stuff. And then boom, there's this massive gravity machine that shows up, right? And it's like, oh, I did not expect this to happen at all. And it's in your face and everything's going crazy. That's the kind of level I really enjoy, the unexpected when that hits. And people can definitely expect more of that in I Expect You to Die 3.
For me, I know this is a divisive one, but Submarine in the first game, Operation Deep Dive, I love that level. I love the frantic nature of it. I'm also a huge fan of the elevator level at the end of I Expect You to Die 2. I think those two are neck and neck for my favorites there.
Well, I can just go. I think my favorite one is, and you're gonna have to forgive me. I am not as familiar with the franchise as everyone else is, but I think it's in the second game when there is a workshop that you break into and you're trying to figure out the mask. That is probably one of my favorites, just because there's a lot of depth to that level. So that one would be mine.
I like Seat of Power. When you're sitting and you bust into Zora's boardroom, it's kind of interesting, and it's a scene you've seen so many times in spy movies and spy spoofs of the villain, like, berating his underlings. We don't get to see that happen, but it happens there, and there are clues of the fallout of those kind of scenes. And then just the way it ends, minor spoilers, I guess. You rocket ship chair out of that level, so that to Jared's point, is kind of a fun twist.
Yeah, and I got to say, Seat of Power has some of our best environmental storytelling. From like a narrative design perspective, exactly what Matt said, right? Like you see that table, you see the nameplates and the chairs, like the fire and everything. Like it's a great point of you're able to understand that scene without us having to show you that scene, right?
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I'm gonna be like a nerd and say like the hub is definitely one of my favorite places to hang out in the game. Like I don't know, it's just like, oh, I'm in my command. I got my stuff around me. I got my mission mementos over here. It just feels good, awesome. So we talked about across the franchise. What was something that there's so much work that goes into creating the experiences that we make at Schell Games, and some amazing cross-team collaboration. So, whether it's about something you directly worked on or like a fun moment with the team, what was one of your favorite parts so far about making I Expect You to Die 3?
I'll go ahead and go first again. I'm sorry. I keep jumping in.
That's right. We'll just keep going around the horn. It's a good system.
Yeah.
It works.
For me, it was, and this won't be as interesting for some because it's not specifically about the game, but it's about the team environment. Every team that you're on, especially at Schell Games, can feel like you start to become really close friends. It isn't just a development squad, right? Like it's the people you hang out with and talk to every day, before meetings, after meetings. So I gotta say, one of my favorite things that happened during I Expect You to Die 3's development was a hot dog party we had, in which the whole team got hot dogs. We made them in the kitchen, and you can actually see we got a little hot dog hat up here from that event, which is now proudly displayed. And I think that's just an example of when you make games together and you have fun together, then the games you make together are going to be fun.
Which came first, the hot dog party or the hot dog in the new trailer?
Oh, you know what?
One leads right to the other. It's a straight line.
Yeah, they evolve together.
Yeah, similar to Jared, I think my favorite moment so far actually happened yesterday as we were announcing the game. Dmitri put together this really fun party for our whole team with all sorts of like I Expect You to Die themed challenges that were based around the levels we created for this game. It was very fun. And then tied in with, at the end of it, getting to see all of your all's reactions to the trailer releasing. It's just a great moment. We work on these games for so long. I mean, this game's been in development for well over a year, and being able to finally see that, just a little taste of it out in the public, is just so awesome and so gratifying as a developer.
Yeah, I guess mine is very similar to Joey's. So quick little background for you all. I come from esports, and I recently got hired maybe like 2 years ago into Schell. And this is kind of my first project that I have worked on since being here. And I think for me, the biggest thing was getting to see people with all these strong passions and being able to collaborate with such a great team. Like, to be honest, I didn't know game development would be this fun. So I really am blessed with a great team that knows what they're doing. But being able to see their passion and see it actually come true is probably one of the biggest fulfillments that I've ever had, that I didn't know that I would appreciate so much. So I think that's probably my favorite part about developing this game.
Still work though. I have to tell
Yes.
that for any kids out in the audience to think it's all
It is work.
fun and games. For me, I like it's terrific to see the growth and evolving of ideas in a game like this. Even dumb little things. It's one line game that I won't say, but I know Jared knows what I'm thinking already, right? That just started as a throwaway line in an early storyboard, and just seeing that gag kind of take life over time. An audio delivery of it, right, and then seeing animation on top of that, so that one little throwaway joke gets this whole life of its own, and I just love seeing that evolvement. Evolvement's that a word? I like seeing it evolve.
It is now. You're the project director. You can make up any words you want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's part of what I do. And no one calls me on it. I just say nonsense.
Always with a martini in hand too. It's like it just adds to the
Spy
efficiency.
problem.
No, that's great. And I'm going to piggyback off of that, knowing like the cross-team collaboration and the stories that you just shared. Tony Averbeck, pardon me if I mess up your last name, had a question, and I know this is very particular, so maybe an estimate. Like, how many person hours goes into the creation of an I Expect You to Die game? Like, how many, like, team members? Like, just to give the audience a sense of, like, just how many passionate developers and people at Schell Games are behind this series. Estimates. We can get you a more accurate response later, maybe.
Dmitri and Matt, do you want to go over like the kind of titles that we have that work on this game?
That's perfect. Thank you, Jared.
I'll kick us off. Hey,
I was like, what do you mean by titles?
Yeah, like we've got, level designers.
spreadsheets.
We got like level designers, we got graphics engineers, we got playtest coordinators, we have audio engineers, we have directors, we have VPs who do like weekly or sometimes daily reviews and like provide feedback for the team. We have people who work on narrative, we have people who work on lighting, we have people who work on 3D models, we have animators, right? Like the list goes on and on and on. When you're discussing like the person hours that go into making a game like this, it's usually not this cut and dry, like everybody starts and everybody ends, right? Like you have this rolling list of people that it's like, oh, hey, as soon as the game is written, then we can make the characters. As soon as the characters are made, we can, apply the textures to them. Once that's done, we can animate them. Once they're animated, the audio engineers are coming in and they're making sure that the VO lines are syncing up, right? And that the sound effects are playing. And once that's done, it's getting QA'd by our amazing QA team. And it's getting put in front of playtesters by our playtest coordinators, right? And then that all information comes back and we do it all again, right? And so it's a very complicated process, but there are so many hands at work that you can't help but be awed by how it all comes together in the end.
Yeah, I won't get too specific, but I think I can say this: it's thousands of developer weeks if you look at it and break down in sum total. So across many people over a long period of time, but it's a lot of work. These things are a lot of work.
Yeah, and I think for this game, with the amount of care that the studio puts into this game and making sure that our audience and our players have a wonderful experience, it's a very big team. Between Matt and I and the directors, we do manage a very, very big team just to make sure we all are giving you the best experience. So +1 to Jared and Matt. It's a lot of hours and it's been a long road to get here, but we finally announced it. So it's been super exciting.
Yeah, a good week.
The levels are also so iterative, like they transform so much. It's not like we work on one level from start to finish and then we do, level 2 start to finish. Like oftentimes we'll work on this level for a little bit, we'll get it in a good spot, then we'll start another level, and then we'll jump back to that one later. And they transform so much throughout the process over the course of months. And it's all just, to Jared's point, responding to feedback that we get from playtesters and getting input from team members, both like on, I Expect You to Die 3 and also elsewhere at Schell Games. So it really is just a giant collaborative process that molds these games together.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you so much for that insight. And Joey, I'm going to stick with you for a second. Earlier, you said something about research in the submarine. So would love to do a little bit of digging into that. What was that like? What What kind of research did you have to do for? Is it the background that you're sitting in right now? I think
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah, without giving away too much, as you can see from this image and from our trailer, there is another underwater level that Agent Phoenix gets to experience in I Expect You to Die 3, and so a really fun part of designing that level was getting to go to a local museum that has a submarine docked nearby, and getting to tour it and kind of see all the real world things that we could try and bring into our game. It was a funny experience because I think that the tour guide who was taking us through it wasn't quite expecting us to be like, how could we turn this into a death trap? Like, oh, this thing looks really deadly, right? So maybe they were a little off put by that, but yeah, we spent a couple hours there. It was a great way to bond as a team, but also to look at the types of things that, like, the real world affordances and the handles, the doors, like how everything is crafted in these spaces so that we can make it feel as authentic as possible in VR when you're twisting all these little knobs, opening the doors, trying to avoid whatever death traps may happen here.
Well, you're with us for this stream, so obviously there weren't any death traps in the actual submarine. Yeah. We're grateful
we
for
survived.
it.
Yes, we did survive. Whether Agent Phoenix survives is up to you all.
No, that's fantastic. And I think that dovetails so nicely into my next question and a statement that Matt actually already made. Like, developing games is fun, but it's also a lot of hard work. So I would love to be a little transparent about some of the challenges that went into either working across all titles or around this one in particular. I know that, Schell Games is very cognizant of motion, comfort, and accessibility options. But it takes a lot of work going into that. So I would love to know more about what instances were like, oh, this is tricky, but it's so worth it. It's going to be so worth it.
Can I jump ahead on this one?
Yes, we can definitely break the order.
I think we can talk about this a little bit, and Kat, give me like the signal if I'm going too far. But this game will have a little bit more motion, right? The first two games, you're largely in one place. We wanted to see if we could push on that a little bit. So we did, and there's challenges with that. We have a reputation for being a very physically comfortable game for players, and we really worked hard to maintain that, but still add a little motion in. So the solution was multifaceted, but it's really like using best practices for VR with motion, and then play testing the heck out of it, seeing how people respond, and then giving players options, putting players in control of how much they see, like are there things we can do to make it more comfortable, let them toggle things on and off. So, sounds like I'm getting a little distinct. Yeah, so that was a large effort early on in the project. I don't know, Joey or anyone else want to talk more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges as a designer for an I Expect You to Die level, especially now that we're the third game in, is creating puzzles that are going to be challenging for our hardcore fan base, but also approachable for newcomers, where I Expect You to Die 3 might be the first title that they actually play in this series. And so we spend a lot of time fine-tuning all of those details, both in the challenge of the puzzles, but also the accessibility of any sort of motion that we're trying to do, to make sure that this is a far-reaching game. There's a lot of people who value I Expect You to Die because it's a seated experience, and it's one that isn't going to ask too much of you, to be getting up, running around your room and stuff like that. You can kind of sit back, use your telekinetic powers, and explore the environment that way. And that's really important to us to preserve, while also trying to push the boundary in some new ways, as Matt alluded to, that preserve the seated experience, but maybe introduce some new things that you haven't seen in the previous games.
Yeah, and I'll say that one of the biggest challenges that I personally faced on the project was I have a new respect for people who make sequels, who write sequels, because the more sequels you do, the more lore and established content you have to account for. Now that we are in our third game, we have a lot of lore behind us now, a lot of characters who have done things and said things that we need to take into account. And so we have to make sure that we are consistent, right? And maintaining that narrative consistency for me is very important. And for this team, it was very important. So that was a big challenge that we faced the first game, we were putting together this really fun spy experience. And then in the second game, they really stepped it up, right? And brought in this, the amazing character with John Juniper and this really great story. And then in this game, we wanted to step it up even more, right? And really tell an even more compelling story, which is difficult to do because I love the story in the second game. Marlena, the narrative designer on the second game, just did a phenomenal job with that team telling that story. And so this game is going to push that envelope a little more. We are going to have some new characters. Those characters are going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if they can continue to evoke that emotion that the second game brought out.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna piggyback off of Jared's really quick. The new additions and the new characters, and just making sure that the game stayed on schedule was probably, at least for me, the hardest part as a producer. Just making sure, like, our team again, like, has such great ideas. They want to make this experience the best that they can be, and so sometimes that means toning down some of the passion, just because we do have a schedule that we do have to stick to. But at the same time, I think figuring out a way to balance all of that was probably the hardest thing, at least from my point of view, that I had to deal with, at least on the project.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Wow, like, I can't believe we're already halfway through this, and there are so many great questions coming in through chat. There's still so many questions I want to ask, like, this great group here, because I work with you, but I don't get to ask questions all day. So, just a note to chat. There are some people, like, you don't have to play I Expect You to Die or I Expect You to Die 2 in order to enjoy I Expect You to Die 3. Some of the questions that you're dropping, we're not going to be able to answer on this live stream because we don't want to spoil the experience for anybody that hasn't played the first two yet. But I think it's safe to reference a couple of Easter eggs or familiar things that might make an appearance in the third game. So I see that Laser Bear is a very popular topic of discussion. So are there any kind of odes from the first two games that have sneakily snuck their way into this third one? Laser Bear, Archer Bear, so many names.
Well, I think one of the benefits from, bringing in new folks to the team who started as fans of I Expect You to Die, like all of you, is we're all always constantly pestering Jared about, like, can we bring back the Bear Archer? Can we bring back, this character? What's Hive Mind up to? I don't know. And, like, just all these characters that you all love so much, we love too. And so there are some appearances like the Laser Bear that you could see that made into the game, some that didn't. But it was important to us to, like, be paying homage to the I Expect You to Die world that exists while expanding it with these new characters that, you'll eventually find out about in I Expect You to Die 3.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure, right? Like, we want to introduce new things. We don't want everything to be, like a callback, but we still want to have those callbacks. We want to, have that fan service and get people who, if you know kind of thing, right? That's just so fun to have in there. So yeah, we have a handful of things and a lot of new. So.
It's interesting to me, right? Because we have the game lore, but we also have our internal lore. And sometimes it's hard to remember which is actually in the games and which just exists in our heads, right? Are we referencing something anyone's going to get? Because we've never told them that before. So we have to watch that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to echo everyone else because they basically said everything, and I'm going to say something that I'm not supposed to, so I'm not going to say anything.
No, that's amazing. I love it. We did, in the trailer, have a particular robot that appeared, and we've also teased this in some of the press releases and stuff that we've put out as well. Does this robot have a name?
How do we talk about this? So I saw that people are already data mining and understanding that the robot's name is Ro Butler. So that is confirmed. Robot is called Ro Butler, and we can't talk too much about that name for sake of spoiling it. I will just say that there is so much more to that robot, and we all absolutely love that character, and I have a feeling a lot of people are going to love it as well.
Excellent. So stay tuned for some declassified intel as we go along this journey. Awesome sauce. So I would love to just spend some time talking about how this experience builds upon the successes of the first two, but also differs as much as we can talk about it. I know pillars are very much a guiding force of everything that we do at Shell Games. So it might be cool just to reveal the curtain a little bit about like what were the pillars for this one? Were they the same? Were they different? Like what happened there?
That's a Matt question.
I laugh because it's been a while since we looked at the old pillars.
Well, I can tell you, I have the original game's pillars sitting across from my desk that I have been burned into my brain every day, which were believe you are there, layers of discovery, and lead them to cleverness, which were kind of three things that were the mantra of the original I Expect You to Die. So now, Matt, maybe I bought you enough time to pull up the document that has
Apparently not fast enough. We definitely kept lead them to cleverness. We dropped Believe You're There because that is now just core to all VR titles. That's expected out of all VR titles. So really, we had two pillars, and I forget the exact phrase. The spy fantasy, lean hard in the spy fantasy. And embarrassingly, I forget the last one. So if Jared wants to help me out.
I'm probably not going to be able to hit the pillar, but I can talk about our theme.
Looking it up
a little bit.
Yes, do that.
That's kind of related. For every game, I'm personally a big believer in theme, and I think our team really is too. Because when you have a very strong theme, all of the decisions that you make for the development cycle, you can kind of hold up to that theme and say, like, is this addressing the needs that theme kind of gives the team? For this game, our theme was the price of progress, and everything from the levels to the gameplay to the characters and the story that we're telling, all tried to go through that lens of that theme of like, what is the price of progress? And it's a really cool theme to have for a third game too, right? Because now that we've been doing this for a while, we had to ask ourselves the question, what is the price of progress for us, right? Like, what does it mean to continue to add layers to this franchise, to keep it interesting, to keep it compelling, to keep it current? And so it was a really fun thematic adventure for us on that front.
Can't believe we forgot this pillar. Because it was really important at the time, but now it's so ingrained in the project. So it was lead them to cleverness, spy fantasy first, but the other one, and we talked a lot about this one, this is why I can't believe I don't remember it, is outlandishly believable, which is really the core to all the interactions. We might do a ridiculous thing, like in the second game, we build a laser out of parts, let's say. But they can be ridiculous, but they still need to be grounded somehow in reality. So you can build this laser, you can heat up and reflect it off mirrors like you think it would, but you couldn't say blow up the moon with it, right? Like, so we have to walk that line of like, hey, this is crazy, but yet somehow plausible in the game world. So that's really important to the franchise. Deer, gas, same thing, right? Those kind of things. They're silly, they're kind of crazy, but you kind of believe them, at least in the spirit of the game.
Awesome. No, thank you. And so that love this information about pillars and the themes that are found across the games. This is a question I have, and Magenta Beast also asked, which is an excellent question. What inspired Shell Games to make I Expect You to Die in the first place? I know this took you way back, all the way back to 2016, 2017, probably before that, because that's when we announced it. But
Uh-huh.
Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, this one I'll absolutely take. We were doing some very early experiments with VR, and we were trying motion because everyone thought, like, cool, I'm going to be in VR. First person running around is going to be where it's at. And like, people were getting sick, people were getting dizzy, having to take half days off. And we're like, wow, this is crazy. Like, it looks so real when you're in there, but like the inner ear and there's some real challenges there. So the thing you think you want isn't the thing you want. And it came out of a conversation with Jesse. And we're like, wow, all we're going to be able to do is some kind of game where you're stationary. What can we do? Like, what kind of heroic adventure can you tell when you're stationary? And we started thinking about spy movies and the ridiculous, like the villain will monologue while you're tied down to the chair and you have to work your way out of it. Very specifically, I Expect You to Die is from that James Bond movie where he's strapped to the table and the laser's coming to get him. Oh, you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. So once we hit on that and it sounded so right, we were off and running. That's what launched the franchise.
No, that's perfect. I love it. That is a perfect origin story for I Expect You to. I'm a fan. Thank you for that wonderful question. I'm gonna send another question in from chat from Gabriel Reed. How has the approach to level design changed from I Expect You to Die 1 to 2 to 3? So what are some great lessons learned, some triumphs, some challenges in your respective disciplines? Would love to hear your perspective. Joey, I see you nodding your head. Why don't you take it first?
Yeah, sure. So I did not work on the previous I Expect You to Die, but I think like having studied those levels and played them a lot in preparation for this one, I think the first game was it's a really great puzzle experience, right? And it was really, for the most part, about the puzzles with a little bit of story that came through. And then the second game comes along, and we saw how much players love the story, and the whole John Juniper narrative was woven into it. So we're now crafting this amazing puzzle experience with an amazing story experience. With the third game, I feel like we've been able to lean on that even further, where we're now like looking for deeper ways to kind of interweave the story and the gameplay to create just like really awesome moments where much like the original I Expect You to Die example that Matt shared, like you have these big climatic moments where you're in the heat of some face off with a villain, and rather than just like say sitting and watching like a cutscene unfold in front of you, we want you to feel like you're a part of the action. And I think that's something that we've been able to do really well, and certainly something that I've thought a lot about in my approach to designing some of these levels.
Yeah, and I can jump in, at least maybe not for the production side of it, but I do know in pre-production, the name of the game was how best can we support our level designers to do what they need to in these levels to make them as unique as possible. So a lot of lessons that we learned from I Expect You to Die 2 that our great design director, Francisco, brought with us was that we needed more than one level designer to design each level. So each level is kind of installed with 2 level designers who kind of can bounce ideas off of each other, and so have a really creative atmosphere to kind of harbor some of those ideas and make sure that it does sound right for the franchise. So like the whole saying, 2 heads are better than one. It was an approach that we definitely took and we made sure that we had. So that being said, from a production standpoint, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I would call out.
Yeah, and y'all are really smart too. So we have to make a lot of complex puzzles.
True.
Joey mentioned it earlier, but like the idea of the evolution of the puzzles, right? And just trying not to do stuff that we've done before. And then also realizing, we watch those videos where y'all are speed running and we're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to stump them this time? And so it's just a natural evolution too of, let's make puzzles that are accessible, that people who aren't super into puzzle games can still figure out, but are still challenging enough for those hardcore speedrunners.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I should have done this when we first started this stream, but sometimes great questions come out super late. But wanted to take a moment and just talk about what does an average day look like in your role? Like just to paint a picture, because I think that those memes where it's like what I do versus what my parents think I do versus what everybody, like, I feel like that's super accurate when it comes to gaming. So just just a level set. Dmitri, let's start with you. What does an average day look like for a producer?
That is, yeah, an interesting and very long. I could talk about that for a very long time. A super short version of what I do in my day to day. Production is kind of the hub of communication on the project, and we are the keeper of the schedule and kind of the budget of production. So a lot of what I do is just making sure everyone is communicating. We are over communicating. We understand where we are in the project, making sure we hit our milestones. I am communicating with the VEEPs of our studio, who are all, for all intents and purposes, if you had to compare them to somebody, like clients. So making sure that we're getting our reviews done with them, and then also just making sure that the team is super comfortable and are not getting burnt out, and so protecting them in the best way possible. Alongside that, there is a whole lot of stuff I'm doing in the background with slideshow presentations and like spreadsheets, making sure everybody is communicating in a way that best fits them, and not causing a whole lot of overhead. And then also just making sure that all of our tasks are kind of set up for the week and people know what they're doing. So I'm pretty much just a giant organizer and just a giant piece of communication for the team. And so that's basically what I do, and just making sure that our team stays well staffed. And if we need any extra staffing, that I'm keeping up with that. So more or less, that's my day to day. A super high level summary.
And we thank you for it every day.
Thanks.
For sure.
I
guess.
Yeah, go ahead, Joey.
Sorry. Yeah, so I guess for me, I mentioned my role is level lead, which is kind of our user-friendly term for that we say publicly, but internally we call it pod leads. And there's a pod that's essentially assigned to each level of designers, artists, audio engineers, technical engineers who are bringing each of these levels to life. And so as a pod lead, I view my role as trying to help the pod bring all of their ideas together and turn it into a cohesive level that's going to hit the goals that we need to hit for our budget, for our story goals, for our creative goals and everything. Because we have some really wild ideas sometimes, and some of them make it in, some of them don't. And my role is to essentially do whatever I can do to allow each of them to bring their creative ideas to the table and figure out a way that we can make it work as we're developing each of the levels.
Yeah, and for me, in a somewhat similar vein, without all of the awesome work that Joey does, is a lot of reviewing of levels as they are being developed. I feel like the narrative designer role kind of changes and shifts throughout the project. At the beginning, it was, hey, what is this story and who are the characters? And it was doing a lot of research into those stories and characters. Eventually, that changes into, okay, we're writing the script now, and we have thousands of lines in a spreadsheet that I stare at every day. So, hey, if you love spreadsheets, get into narrative design, everybody, because there's a lot of them. In fact, I think, you know what? If you love spreadsheets, get into video game development, because I think everybody here stares at spreadsheets a lot. And so, I'm constantly shifting, adjusting dialogue, making sure that everything is, punching as well as it possibly can, communicating with audio, recording scratch, getting it into game, reviewing it, finding the timing, making sure that that's right. And then, that's the kind of stuff that you think of as, I'm writing a video game. But there's also this kind of like narrative design portion that's like working with the pods with Joey and our other level designers of like, hey, what story is that background telling right now on Joey's screen? Like, how is that making the player feel? How do we take advantage of that in our story, right? Like, what kind of music? I'm talking to audio. Like, what should the music feel like in this scene, right? And we're discussing the gameplay and whether or not the puzzles are really making the player feel the way that we want them to feel in that moment. And then, hey, throughout the rest of the game, are they feeling the ups and downs? Like, are we just really, you know, keeping them in this weird subdued state the whole time? Like, we got to make sure that this flows, right? And so, yeah, it's it's a lot of how's the player going to feel at this moment through not only the environment but the dialogue and the gameplay.
Yeah, I guess, and then for me, project director, right? I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding sometimes. And some studios is like this. The project director, it's their grand vision and they dictate it out. That is absolutely not what this is like, though. But it is my job to maintain the vision. So I help coalesce the vision from all the creatives involved, capture, identify passion, channel passion into the game that we're building. That does mean I have to sometimes say no to very good ideas, right? Because good ideas aren't always the right idea for the game we're building. So it's those kind of decisions. So my job is unblocking people. So it's a lot of meetings, a lot of reviews, a lot of spreadsheets, right? Are we moving in the right direction? Is everyone moving the same direction? That's the most important part. And make sure we have the end target in sight.
Excellent, excellent. I learn something new every time. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, one quick thing. One thing I don't do is voice the robot. I saw one question fly by asking if I was the voice of the robot. No, we have a much more professional voice actor to do the robot voice.
You'd be an amazing robot.
You're going to love it.
You would. It'd be great. I'd love it.
That's fantastic. Oh my gosh. That'd be a fun exercise though. It's like if we just did like Schell Games team VO for our finished games. Like what would that even look like? That's amazing.
We know because we record all the scratch that goes into the game. So.
Jared has an unfair
I have
advantage.
personally recorded scratch and I don't want anyone to ever hear it.
What? Come on.
It's
It'd be like bloopers. I don't know, blooper reel. Like, would that be the equivalent of that? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a running joke on the team that we say sometimes of like release the Jared cut because I think Jared has voiced every character in this game at some point, including the intro song. So there's a version of this that exists where it's only Jared.
Yeah. Before we get somebody who can actually sing to do it, I throw my voice on that intro track. Take one for the team.
That is amazing. I love it. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how quickly this hour has flown by, and we have not made a dent in like half of the questions that have come in. So thank you for being such a wonderful, engaged audience. We are so excited that you're excited about I Expect You to Die 3 coming out in 2023. Which is this year. I'm lost in some time warp. I'm like 2020 happened and I'm still trying to figure out what time is. So forgive me. I have another question. So would love to know, we're in a tricky spot because we can say things, but we can't say too much for multiple reasons. So I'm going to ask this next question and I just want our panelists to answer with one word, maybe a short phrase. What are you most excited for fans to experience during this game?
Jokes.
I wish I had like Jeopardy music or something to play. Jokes is a great one, Matt. I love it.
I thought it was speed round.
Loss.
I'm going to be so generic. I'm just going to say fun. I just can't think of another word.
It's the most important one, though.
Yeah.
Joey, did you say something?
Oh, I said, sorry, I don't know if it came through. I said endings.
Endings. Okay, perfect. All right, so very cryptic, but y'all should be able to handle it. You're secret agents after all. And for those that have asked, if you have very sharp eyes, yes, there is a QR code in the trailer. You should go check that out. See where it takes you. All right, so next question. What is the reason behind the name Cog in the Machine? I know that we can't say too much, but Joey, you had an interesting answer to this one.
My answer was it's a Toontown crossover, which is not at all true, but I wish it was. Maybe one day.
Fingers crossed. You never know what happens in the universe.
Now that it's brought up, everybody go check out the work that Joey does with Toontown. It's amazing, and he absolutely has a massive passion for it. And he won't say it himself, so I'll say it for him.
Well, thank you. I've seen some Toontown fans I recognize in our chat, so thank you all for stopping by as well.
Amazing. I
Uh,
love it.
yeah, but for Cog in the Machine, so obviously there's a robot, right? So there are robotics at play. But I think some people in our community have already started talking about the agency in Zaraxis and what it means to be an agent, and what it means to be fighting against this big evil corporation. And throughout the franchise, we've kind of played with the theme a little bit of, like, you're expendable, right? The entire game is called I Expect You to Die for a reason. And that expendability and that feeling of being part of something bigger, but maybe not being an important part of that something bigger, is, that kind of hints at that whole cog in the machine title. But we play with that, right? Like, it isn't just about the agent. It isn't just about any singular thing. Being a part of something bigger than yourself is kind of something that we really leaned on during this game.
Man, Jared went deep. I was not going to have that type of response. Mine was going to be that, we Jared revealed the theme of our game, which was the price of progress. And I think while discussing different titles for this game and how we wanted to hit it, I think it did match that theme very, very well. So there's my plus one to this question.
No, that's perfect. Okay. I'm going to take a couple more questions from chat while we have a couple minutes left before we wrap things up. Thank you again for everybody that tuned in. Y'all all are amazing. The Gaming Crazed asked about difficulty. So is the third game going to be more difficult than the previous two? What is our difficulty progression looking like across the franchise?
Man, yeah, that is a really good question. I mean, we certainly try and keep it as approachable as possible. We know that for some people, I Expect You to Die 3 is going to be the first I Expect You to Die game that they play, and we don't want to create puzzles that are so difficult that they don't want to continue playing. But at the same time, we know that we have to challenge the speedrunners that Jared mentioned earlier, who are looking for that new thing. So I do feel like this game actually might be a little bit more challenging than previous titles, but not in a way that is, hopefully not in a way that's going to throw anyone off if you're completely new to the game. I mean, certainly we increase the difficulty a little bit as you go throughout the game and as you get into the later levels, but it's all still approached with accessibility in mind.
Excellent. Thank you so much
right.
for that.
And I'll just throw out, we tried to sprinkle in some extra optional bits for people that really want to challenge themselves. So I'll just leave it at that.
Sounds good. Awesome. Taking another question from the audience, Nathan Doran asked, this is an inspiration question. Who was the inspiration for John Juniper's character?
Cool. I think that John Juniper is kind of an amalgamation of a lot. It's kind of this indictment of the kind of entertainment industry as a whole, all boiled down into one character. And it's we wanted to hit the familiar notes of, like, oh yeah, we all know, like, some conceited, right, like, thinks they're the top of the world. And so when it comes to a question of, like, who's the inspiration for them, really the inspiration is people that you know in your everyday life, because those are the most relatable characters, and those are the characters that you can really kind of get behind for, either antagonistically or, with them. And so, yeah, there isn't any just one person. It really is, like, just somebody that we knew that players could identify.
No, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that background, Jared. And I'm going to expand the question to the rest of the team. Let's see. I just saw it in chat. Where is it? Perplexed the Confused asked, who are your favorite characters? So if you have a favorite character in the first or second game, favorite moment. I know we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think it's such a great question.
I know I really like the Fabricator. There's just some mystery to that character that I really like, and I think I've seen a lot of people mention the Fabricator and very attached to the mystery behind them, and so I'm gonna go with the Fabricator for me. That's probably the best one that I like, at least in the franchise, barring this next game, because thoughts.
Yeah, my favorite character is one that we can't talk about from this game, but I think runner-up maybe is Dr. Zor. I know Dr. Zor is a character that we haven't heard from a lot, really just at the end of the second game, but I just love all the mystery surrounding Zeraxis and all of the potential ways that could develop further.
I don't know if it's exactly my favorite, but Hive Mind is a lot of fun. And just between us here, very polarizing internally, because Hive Mind sits right on that line of like, did we go too far or did we go not too far enough? So endless debates about that, but love me some Hive Mind.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously love John Juniper and the things that the team in the second game did with him. And Will Wheaton just did a phenomenal job bringing him to life. But I'm going to say my favorite character, shout out to the deep cuts out there, is Sean in HR. You know Sean in HR has been through the ringer. You got to have love for him.
Not Handler? You're not going to go Handler?
That's what I thought.
Well, Jared's too humble to say that himself, but that's everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
Well, that is my favorite character that we could talk about right now. Is definitely the Handler. Like, oh, you're so helpful and snarky, but so really nice in actual real life. So it's interesting. Awesome. Well, we have 3 minutes left. Thank you again, everybody who tuned in. Thank you, Dmitri, Jared, Joey, and Matt, for your time and expertise this evening. I hope that everybody that tuned in walked away with some cool tidbit about I Expect You to Die franchise and what's happening in the next game. It is going to be a rock star year. So if you haven't already, be sure to head over to iexpectyoutoDie.com to check out the brand new website that was just launched. Well, the new website for the third game that's there. We also have a bunch of fun things happening on the Twitter account and in the Discord channels. So please, please, please stop by. For those that have already started to piece together the secret operation that was hidden in the trailer, congrats to you. And a major shout out to Adam Kutakuma for putting that together. It's a lot of work that goes into that. Super cool. I love it. I'm not smart enough to figure it out, but I have the cheat code, so it works out in the end. Before we head out for this evening, sorry, Adam and Beth. Beth, I don't think did not give Beth her proper shout out. She also played a huge role in putting together some of the beautiful writing and documentation that you are bound to discover should you be up to the task, Agent. Other than that, I wanted to quickly open the floor to our panelists. Like, any closing thoughts, anything that we've missed, a question that you would love to answer that wasn't asked. Now is your time to shine, nerd out, or rant for the next 10 seconds or so about whatever that thing would be.
Really quick. I have a really quick one. I think I've seen this question so many times about what's my favorite intro. Definitely is going to be this game that is coming out. So that just surprise. Everyone will have to wait, but this one is my favorite.
Yes.
Yeah, +1 to that for sure. Yeah, I'll just throw out there, I love seeing all of the theories and whatnot. Like, we all have been following the I Expect You to Die Discord silently sometimes, seeing the stuff that you all are posting, and just keep them coming. I love all the fan theories. I love seeing you all dig into every frame of the trailer and try and figure out what's to come. It's really gratifying. And so thank you all for being such hardcore I Expect You to Die fans and being the reason that we're still making this game.
Yeah, I'll plus with that, right? Like, if you keep loving these games, we'll keep making them. That's how it goes.
And I just want to say thank you to every single agent out there who puts their hard work and dedication into making the agency the best that it could possibly be. We love you, we adore you, and we hope that you don't die.
I can't even say anything after that, fam. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Y'all have been amazing. If you haven't already, please wishlist the game on Steam. It's also coming out on MetaQuest platforms. Join the I Expect You to Die newsletter and the Discord channel. There's so much fun stuff that happens in those two places. And if you're already figuring out the QR code stuff, you definitely want to be in the Discord. Great conversations there. So subscribe. Thank you again for tuning in. Y'all have been phenomenal, and we are so excited to bring you I Expect You to Die 3 this year. So have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, stay kind. And there's nothing else I can say after that exit that Jared just did. Honestly, do you want to sing the intro from the last one? Do you want to keep talking like the handler? That's an excellent sign off, man.
No, that's marigolds are forever. Yeah, we could sing marigolds are forever. That's
I love it.
Thank you to Adam for doing that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful night. Until next time.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks, everyone.